Welcome to Flow, a new podcast and video series about Flow, brought to you by Platformation.
In our podcast series about Flow, we've been speaking to different business people, but also different people in society about what the word flow means to them and to the organizations. We thought that we would also like to hear the perspective of Platformation on this. And today with us, we have our CEO, Elmer de Valk, which is going to be speaking on behalf of our organization. Elmer started his career within Capgemini, also worked for Accenture as a manager, and then in 2013 co-founded Platformation in the Netherlands. Elmer, welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, great.
I tried to introduce you the best as I could.
Yeah.
Could you introduce yourself to us and also to the listeners?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Maybe so. Elmer de Valk from the Netherlands, as you've already said. So I live in the beautiful city of Utrecht with 2 children and my wife. And I was educated in the world of business administration. And after my studies, indeed, I worked for Capgemini and Accenture. In my last role, I was working for the IT strategy and transformation practice. And from there on, I started Platformation together with Roel and Bas. And currently now as acting CEO of Platformation and still enjoying my ITST roots to help customers in understanding what they want and how to get from A to B.
Thank you for that. Before we jump into Flow and what Flow really means, I would like to understand a bit better your career path so far, since the moment you started until where you are today. Could you elaborate on a bit, please?
Yeah, so as I said, started at Capgemini. So initially did consulting around the concept of project and portfolio management. So got a hang of how to organize IT environments from the perspective of change and change the business. Then after joining Accenture, did some more architectural work, IT architectural work around SAP backgrounds and those kind of things. And then ended up in my last project actually implementing ServiceNow. And that's also when I got more introduced to the concepts around IT service management. So with that, I actually got let's say the broader perspective, both from the change aspects and from the run aspects. And then of course after that, having had that experience with ServiceNow, having that experience with IT governance end to end. Started with Platformation, did a lot of ServiceNow related initiatives, and actually since then been also developing myself and growing myself into different areas. For example, facility management, HRSD, compliance, manufacturing, and all the other things that I'm interested in. I'm really an IT generalist. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I like to think about those concepts, and that's what I'm currently also doing.
Yeah. So I understand that before Platformation, you were already exposed to different ServiceNow initiatives. You spent already quite some time in that. Why did you feel the need to start Platformation?
Yeah, that actually also brings me back to the days that I was working for the bigger consultancy organizations. And for me, those organizations, it's typically all about bigger, right? It's all about bigger projects. Bigger monolithic ERP environments at the time, so always bigger. Whereas my intuition said that in business it's not about bigger, it's actually about smaller and more impactful. And how can you take a lot of small agile steps to get to a certain end result? And if you want to make your name and fame in a big organization, then if you start to preach on the importance of small projects and smaller budgets, that's not necessarily the path to career success.
Makes sense.
So, but with that feel that is indeed where the world was going to, I thought, let's create an environment, an ecosystem, a company that would enable that concept. And I think that's what we have been doing quite successfully over the years.
Mm-hmm. So think ServiceNow is really the core of what you do. You mentioned ServiceNow many times in explaining and actually talking to me today. But I would assume that some of our viewers today are not yet familiar with ServiceNow and what a platform as a service is. Could you explain and elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm really a huge enthusiast of that technology, right? It's really, I think, one of the best technologies of its kind. But then, yeah, to your question, what is it then in reality? I was always, the reason I fell in love with the technology at some point is because I did a couple of implementations with other technologies, and it was always, from a consulting point of view, quite frustrating because there was always a gap between what the customer wanted to achieve and what the technology could provide. Mm-hmm. And if that gap was not there, there was also usually the problem that the technology could break down. There was bugs in it, or there was all kinds of other misery associated with that. And I've had so much bad experiences implementing bad technology that the first time I implemented ServiceNow, I was really amazed about the fact that it could, you could very rapidly configure it so that it would meet the needs of customers, but it was also so immensely stable and scalable that from a user experience point of view, the technology basically did what a consumer was actually expecting from it. And what lies beneath, and that was also something that I was already exploring back in the day when I was working for Capgemini, is the concept of that it is a low-code application development platform. So it provides a huge toolbox that you can use to very rapidly build new business applications. Mm-hmm. And that is what I saw when I was doing that first and initial ServiceNow project. I thought to myself, this is not an ITSM tool. Mm-hmm. This is a low-code application platform. This is something that can be applied to businesses and to make work flow in that sense for a lot of different departments and organizations. And that was for me the excitement around the product. And that's also how I would position ServiceNow. A low-code application platform with a range of very powerful modules, easily integrated to underlying systems, and reliable as let's say picking up your phone and expecting that there is a possibility to make a call, right? So ultra reliable. I think that's what it is, and that's the power of the system.
Good, thank you for getting to the level of detail. Now, as I said at the beginning of our conversation, in this podcast series, we're talking about flow, what the word flow means for people all around, the business and society. And we wanted to understand from you what the word flow actually means in three different perspectives. For yourself personally, for yourself professionally, but also for Platformation.
Yep. Yeah, so the honesty is you already asked that question before, so I had a little bit of time to prepare for that question. And when I was thinking about the concept of flow, I actually thought, what is actually the opposite of flow? And the opposite of flow is frustration. If you are, let's say, consuming something and it's not doing what you want, you feel frustrated. And frustration makes you unhappy. Frustration reduces flow. So if I would take that concept and I would then take that to my personal life, I wanted to use the example of travel, right? So when I'm booking a holiday, for example, I want that service, that IT service that I'm using at the time, I want that to be flawless. That's right? It needs to be super easy, so that I can use that. I also want it to have actually only one place to do all the stuff that I need. I don't want to go to, let's say, system A for a hotel and system B for a plane and something for a cab and something for this. No, I just want one place. I want to get it over with. I want to pay it easy. And I also want to be informed in the process that follows after that, right? So if something changed, just notify me. I don't want to be the person that logs into a system and checks what's going on. No, tell me if the flight is delayed, right? It needs to be ultra quick. That's also something, and maybe stepping aside to travel, I recently had the experience of let's say ordering groceries via the let's say the ultra fast Gorillas system, and literally I made the order, and 6 minutes later the ice cubes came to my house because I needed to create some mojitos that required them, right? So that's the level of speediness and quickness that I'm as a person, that I'm really in love with, and that is also the level of expectation that something is instant, easy, fast. That I also bring to my business environment, right? I also when I'm opening up my laptop for the day, it needs to work. When I'm going into my calendar and I press the join button for a meeting, I want Teams to automatically open up and show me what I want. If I'm then, let's say, updating my CRM or making a resource request for a project, those are systems that all need to work. And if they work, it's great. I'm in the flow, I'm submerged. By the time I wake up, typically, it's Monday, and when I go to sleep, it's Friday. That's what happens, right? Because you're totally, let's say, in the flow. You're totally frictionless, moving from one activity to the other, and that's what, from a professional level, what I want, and that's of course also what we as an organization also want to provide to our customers, so that employees and customers get into that frictionless service experience, that frictionless flow experience. That's what we want to achieve.
So flow is the common thread in our company. Why is that?
Yeah, so our purpose is to make work flow. That's what we're all about. And actually, but to achieve that for our customers, this is a multidisciplinary a team and skill setup that we need to apply in order to actually achieve that purpose, right? So if you look at the blueprint of our organization and the types of people and expertise that we need, and then on the one hand side we have, of course, the people in place that can talk to customers to really understand what it is that they want and need, and also to paint the blueprints and the roadmaps in order to get from A to B. So that's a key capability. Secondly, we have the people that, from a flow experience point of view, are able to design what an engagement layer could look like. An engagement layer is let's say a multi touch point thing, right? It can be a portal, it can be a mobile app, it can be a walk-up experience, it can be whatever, right? But they design it in a way so that it's super easy and intuitive to use. And with that, we have the people that can then be concerned about how do we then optimally and in a best practice way design the workflows that need to run based on a certain service request, which can be within the organization, but also between organizations, right? So a trigger to replace a certain bit of equipment in a big production hall, right, could actually trigger that a vendor is actually notified to actually come in with that part and actually to perform that work, that maintenance work. So it's really a multi-organizational, cross-departmental workflow setup that we implement. And again, one layer deeper, if you are designing those workflows, they also need to be based on a data model that is, let's say, there to actually allow that workflow to run let's say, smooth and in a coordinated manner. So that's the data element. So within the world of ServiceNow, we're talking about concepts like the common service data model, but we're also talking about a centralized department table or a location table. But that's something that is the ecosystem that we need to define. And if we have set that up, so we know what they want, we have the engagement layer, we have the workflows running on that data, then also, of course, we're talking about automation. Because ultimately, that is what companies these days want. They want a hyper-automated way of working, that with a certain trigger, let's say the right stuff is done in their SAP systems or in AD or in wherever, right? So automation. So, but once we have defined that, and we've been doing that stuff for a long time already, I think that what's new and where we are now also continuously improving from a capability perspective is the element of continuous improvement. Because if we have the capability, it should also continuously be aligned to what the customer expects. So using data, using analytics, using machine learning, identifying how the workflows are running, and using that intelligence to actually make those workflows improve over time. That's that part. And then last but definitely not least, it's also about maintaining that solution and enhancing that solution. With the input from our data and analytics group, making sure that the platform and all the surrounding components continuously are improved, and make sure that ultimately the people that are consuming services, people like you and me, continuously get what they want as quickly as possible, as easy and effortless as possible. And as a company, we have all those capabilities and we're growing those capabilities, and that's what we as a company need to do, combining it intelligently so to allow us to make sure that work flows.
So you've done different jobs within IT. You explained in the introduction, you started your career at Capgemini, Accenture, Platformation. You've been involved with clients that are also within the IT sector and clients which were engaging more with the business. But if you focus within IT itself, do you think that flow is always important within IT, and why?
Yes, I think ultimately, let's say, if you ask question on the flip side, has it always been the objective of an IT department to reduce frustrations? I'm thinking the answer is definitely yes, right? So no one wants to implement a system that leads to a huge amount of frustration. I think the reality is that back in the day, people did kind of accepted that IT would come in with a system that would maybe not be perfect at that point, because that was also... Yeah, I mean, there was no comparison. But now, if you look at how easy it is from a consumer perspective to order a service, like booking a hotel or ordering groceries or whatever kind of service that you're consuming on a daily basis, I think that is now what people are bringing into the workspace. And yeah, with that kind of expectation, IT just had to, let's say, pick up and step up, and that's, I think, what we're doing as an industry, and we can actually do a lot more, and that's also, I think, the vacancy that, or let's say that market possibility that we as an organization also try to tap into, to say, okay, we're going to help you to actually make work life as great as real life.
Yeah, clear. And I think that's also very important. If, as a consulting organization, we are targeting to bring our clients to that level.
Yep.
But if you reflect from the perspective of Platformation, you have more than 250 employees. We are in 6 different countries. So how do you make workflow in this context? Having a larger number of employees, a large number of customers, and also countries and entities. How do you approach flow internally within Platformation?
Yeah, so let me start by making the confession that we're not perfect, and I believe that that is what we need to aspire to. So achieving flow, it is a dream state that we constantly need to work towards. So, but I do believe that we are doing a lot of the right things. So we are relying on cloud technologies. That's I think a very important one. Cloud technologies like ServiceNow, Zoom, Teams, Dropbox, all those kind of things. And what that means is that these systems are always up. So when I start my working day, basically from an IT systems perspective, I'm not frustrated. Can it be better? It can, but I think that we've already taken a huge step there. And then when I look at how we apply that in our organization, we are organized with all kinds of virtual teams. So we have people in Belgium collaborating with people in India and in the US, and we're all setting that up in order to realize the expectations of our customers. And those technologies that we have put in place, they also allow that virtual setup to actually work. So I'm really seeing that now we are actually able to make work flow internationally, with the outcome of that we are making workflow for our customers. So living our purpose.
As myself being a part of the team, I get a lot of energy when I see that things are actually flowing and working as expected, and I don't have that sense of frustration. But also looking into what gives me energy is the annual hackathons.
Right.
I think that was one of the reasons also why I considered to join, because the mindset of hackathons attracted me very much. I'm not sure if our audience is very familiar with that. So could you explain what is the hackathon, the Platformation Hackathon, and why did we decide to come up with that concept?
Yeah, so that brings me all the way back to 2013. So when we founded the company, I was in love with the capabilities of the ServiceNow platform, the capabilities that it is actually a low-code application development platform that can be used to build all kinds of cool stuff. But at that time, people really looked at ServiceNow as this is just another ITSM tool, and that's what it is. And we said, we actually want to prove that this is possible. So that's why we said we're going to organize our first and initial hackathon. And in that hackathon, we actually developed our first room reservation application on top of the ServiceNow platform. And with that, we were actually able to showcase to the world two things. A, yes, it can be done. This is a different kind of technology than what you are actually seeing it for. And secondly, we were also able to showcase our level of innovativeness and show that what you're able to do if you combine creative thinking, solid technical knowledge with a great platform. I think that's what started it in 2013, and I think that's still to a certain degree still what it has to be. So unfortunately, due to the COVID stuff, we were not able to organize it. But that's definitely part of the plan to start the organization of these hackathons. And why? It's not just technology, innovation, and showcasing technical skill, but another extremely important factor is bringing people together in one environment from multiple nationalities, multiple backgrounds, and allowing them to collaborate and have fun and have a couple of drinks here and there and to just do awesome stuff that really does miracles for people on how they feel and how happy they are. So
I think this connects to what you said in a previous interview, that the hackathon is not just about the input, but it's more about the process, right?
Absolutely.
Could you elaborate a bit on that and how that connects to flow?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as part of the hackathon, we always start with the teams and a team setup, and we ask those teams on what they want to actually build, what kind of innovations or applications. That is a process in itself, and typically once the hackathon is over, very cool results do come out of it. Mm-hmm. But the honest truth is also that these are not production-ready, deployable applications that we can at that point bring to our customers, right? So the outcome is always, let's say that you see what it could look like, right? Like a proof of concept setup. But indeed, forgetting about the fact that cool stuff comes out, having a journey together with your colleagues, brainstorming about what is possible, finding the right solutions, and getting to a state where you're actively working and brainstorming and collaborating, and again, having fun and having jokes and all those kind of things. I mean, the bonding, the collaboration, that is in fact the real outcome of the hackathon, that people truly, genuinely get connected and feel excited.
Yeah, clear. Also in that interview, you talked about the name of the company, the Platformation, that is the marriage between platforms and platform and transformation. Yep. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? Yeah,
absolutely. So, so it was, again, back in, I think, 2013, when I was reading up on low-code application platform technologies, and there was actually one of the industry analysts, I believe it was Gartner, who actually came out with a report that said that within a period of 5 years, people will embrace platform as a service technologies. And what it will bring transformational benefits to those that accept. So we had, so people have platforms, it will bring transformational benefits. Platform, platformation. That's basically how how the idea came up. So it was literally inspired by Gartner that we thought, this is what we need to use as a company name.
Very interesting. Yeah, and we have a lot of listeners today. So if you could give a tip about the application of the word flow to themselves in their professional, personal life, what would that be?
Yeah, so that brings me back to the beginning of the interview. So what's flow and what is flow not, right? Or what's the opposite of flow? So I would say as a tip, so if you feel frustrated, right? That is, I think, a very important sensation to recognize. And if you recognize this, you might want to even record it. And if you have recorded that frustration, then you're also able to maybe analyze it in terms of what caused it. And then you can think of, and how can I then solve it? So I believe that the tip would be is not to sit around feeling frustrated, but I would say, if you are frustrated, record what that frustration is and make sure that you get the right solution in place to solve it, because that is where modern day technologies are capable of doing. So that would be my tip for advice. And obviously, you know me. So if you want a company to help you in solving your frustrations, then, you know where to find me.
Absolutely.
More than happy to help.
Elmer, thank you very much for that. But actually, a closing question, very important question. What can we expect from the future of Platformation?
Yeah, we're not done yet. And on the one hand side, and I've been trying to recite that a couple of times, right? That we're all about making work flow, but we've also tried to translate that into a concrete mission. And what we want to achieve in the years to come is that we want to make workflow for 100 million people around the world. That is typically the target that we have set out for ourselves. But in order to really get to that state, we need to improve. We need to get better at what we're doing. So to ensure that we get our customers also to that right level and get them what they need. And with that, there are a couple of improvement strategies or strategies that we are currently following. One is improving our advisory capabilities so that we are better equipped at defining where a customer should go and how to get from A to B. Secondly, it's also about growing our UI UX capabilities from a portal perspective. If you look at the workflow layer, it's about being able to provide more industry best practices. And this is actually in line with a verticalization strategy that we have started. So our manufacturing vertical is the first one of many to follow to really get more in-depth workflow advice. More capabilities around data and analytics. And if we do all that well, of course, there's also still the strategy of growing our geographical impact and making sure that we touch as many customers as possible. So that would be, in a nutshell, our strategy for the years to come.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for your time today, Elmer. It was a very interesting conversation, and thank you for being here in our podcast.
Great, thanks.